Do you need to put a lot of things like your phones, your GPS, all that kind of stuff on your dash? Well, we've got an option that is actually pretty cool. So let's take a look. Device mounting in a van, or really any vehicle, is kind of always a little tricky. For vans in particular, it's a little tricky because we have heavier things like navigation devices, such as our larger Garmin Tread XLs or, iPads, things like that, because the passenger often is the one doing the navigating, and it's nice to be able to have things to hold them. With that, you have to take into account the weight of things, stability, things vibrating and shaking. And it's always important, in my opinion, the way that I use my van, to have a nice stable platform. So that's what we have here. We have the NAVIDOK Overlander X. We are going to swap out what was on our van that is no longer really available and doesn't have as much storage capability as the Overlander X, and swap it out for this, install it, show you guys how to do it, and then show you how I set it up. So let's go ahead and do it. So to put this in, it's actually really simple. You put these guys into the pockets here. When you tighten this screw on the front, it moves this little wedge up, which is then going to wedge it into this area. Then we're going to install these cool little guys, which are supports that bolt onto here and allow it to sit nice and pretty and tight without shaking around and all that kind of stuff with the weight on the top. It's a fairly simple process. These just slide right in, you tighten them down, and then we're gonna position this where it's gonna go, and then mark it out, clean it, tape it down, put it all back together, and we're good to go. So let's go ahead and do it, and let's see how easy this process is. You want to make sure you're pushing on the Overlander as you're tightening it to make sure that it seats really nice and secure in there. On the first go around, you're not going to make it crazy tight because you're going to have to take it back off in order to do the final adhesive on top. So now with the top pieces, we're going to take these little guys, little bolts with square nuts that fit in here, and then put that right there. Now the key here is to push these down so that they sit flush against the dash before you tighten them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some tape, which we have prepared here. Really the only thing that you need extraneous here is the tape. They include the Allen keys, they include the alcohol pads to wipe for the adhesive. Like literally all you have to do is just have some tape in order to mark it. So we're going to mark out where these fall so we can take it apart and then tape it all up. So now that we have that marked out, now we're going to take these back off, take this back out, take it off, and then put the brackets on with the double-sided tape. So now we're going to clean the adhesive surface with the included alcohol pads. Make sure there's no like dash dressing for the plastic or plastic polish or Armor All or whatever you might have. Just make sure it's nice and clean. It's not gonna adhere very well if it's not super clean, and you want this to stick very well. With this, you don't want to put a whole lot of weight on it. Apparently within like 10 minutes it's a percentage adhered, and then after 6 hours or 12 hours, it's another percentage. They really suggest that you wait 24 hours before you put too much weight on here to make sure that you get as good of a bond as possible on this tape. So we're gonna go ahead and put it on, and then tomorrow we'll put all the stuff and things on it so you guys can see what it looks like. All right, so now we test fit these guys, make sure that we know what we're doing. We wanna make sure that it sits straight front to back, not to make sure that we test fit it. It's gonna sit on the face. This flat part here, right here, is gonna sit on the face, and then roll it back, and then make sure that everything fits real nice. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick this thing down. Just peel off the tape and go at it. And again, start with the front, and then roll it back, using your tape as a guide, and give it a good press. so it has good purchase with the plastic, and it's good. Same with this one. Again, start with the front and roll it back. I'm using my tape as a guide to make sure that it's not crooked. Give it a good press down, and you should be good. Now, the installation of that part is complete. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the NAVIDOK portion on. Make sure that these are loosened up enough that these are basically flush with here. If they sit up like this, it's not gonna go in. So you just gotta make sure that that's nice and flat. Yep, so that looks like it lined up pretty darn good. Just gonna set these in here for gee whiz, and then do the same thing again, pushing this guy all the way in there. Make sure we're lined up pretty good, which we are, because if this is lined up, then you know we're back where we should have been. And we're just gonna give it a good push, tighten it down, and this part's basically done. And don't forget to push in on this when you tighten it, because if you don't, it could slide out a little bit and it won't have as much purchase as you'd like. You don't have to go crazy tightening these down. You just want them nice and snug so that it's not gonna rattle or move around or anything like that. So you don't have to go all He-Man on it. Now we're gonna do the top part, and that's really just tighten it down. And that's it. The Overlander's installed. The NAVIDOK Overlander is fully installed. Now from here, you can get your RAM mounts. So for instance, I'm in the Peak Design ecosystem. We do have RAM universal kind of X mounts that'll hold any phone that you want. I'm in the Peak Designs ecosystem because I really like their phone case as well as their magnetic wallet. So this is what I use, but we have a couple different RAM mount options. So we sell all of this stuff. We can supply you with all the parts and pieces you need. And there should be some kits down in the description, either of the Overlander or the YouTube video to show you these, but they go in there, loosen it, put it where you want it at, tighten it down, and then you're gonna put your RAM mount on there, and then you're gonna put that on there. And what I like to do first is tighten it really good, and then you're gonna use that to snug the actual mount down in here, because there's a little metal piece that's threaded, and you have to screw the RAM mount onto the actual threaded part and the track to keep it from moving. So from there, it's just figure out where you would like to position your phone and tighten it up. So like that's a little too straight like that. And you know what, honestly, I'm gonna just scooch it over this way a little bit more. So we're gonna loosen it with the arm and then scooch it that way, because I don't want it to stick out so far. And that's the cool part about the RAM mount stuff, is you had the flexibility to do it however you'd like. So we're gonna do it about right there. That way I can manipulate whatever I need to. And good to go. Not gonna interfere with my hands or anything like that. So once this is all set up, like I said, remember we're gonna wait to mount all the big stuff until we get done with it. So before we mount other big things like our Garmin, using big USB-C ball over here, or an iPad, or we're actually gonna mount the controller to our PA system right over here, as well as probably a GoPro and some other things. We have a couple different RAM mounts for your phone. So we have the X Grip, which is basically universal, fits pretty much anything. And then we have the Peak Designs, as I was talking about. So that's really it for the installation of this guy. But we're gonna wait until tomorrow after the 24 hours before we mount all the big stuff. And then we'll get that done and you'll see it at the end of the video, hopefully. All right, so we got the whole thing assembled. We let it, cure for the 24 hours or so before we mounted everything. And this is how we set it up. We'll also be having the O-Light over here, just waiting on another mount for the arm and everything to go in there. But everything's nice and secure. It holds the Overlander TERRA XL, along with our Peak Design mount and our controller for all the lighting in the whole van, as well as you gotta have loud things. And you can do things like yell at people when they don't move on their cell phone. Really, really good to be able to have everything where you want it, when you need it, all that kind of stuff. We've been using the bottom rail in our other van for quite a long time. Really excited to get the whole thing in riptide. That way we can mount everything a little better. Now, the really cool thing about this is it's super flexible. So you can move, you can change, you can adjust things. You're not set to one location to mount anything. It's very dynamic. You can add a GoPro, you can add another phone mount, you can add another iPad, whatever you want. This thing's gonna hold it. We have been using this in the van now for, I wanna say 3 weeks or so, something like that. And it's rock solid, no vibrations, no crazy jiggling, all that kind of stuff. Super duper happy with it. So if you wanna add one of these to your van, by all means reach out, freedomvango.com/contact, and we can install it for you along with a bunch of other cool stuff. If you wanna do it yourself, you can go to vanpartswarehouse.com and we will get this right out to you so you can upgrade your adventure.